Commander USA here, ready to brave the elements to bring you my groovy movies. Like when there's a fruit fallout. Whoa! Oh, even volcanic eruptions and whoa, earthquakes. Whoa! Oh, Lefty will brave vicious man-eating sharks. Whoa, hey, what's the cutest? Might have to cross a spooky swamp just to get to work.
Whatever it takes, Commander USA will deliver his groovy movies on USA, Saturday at 1.
Hello everyone, John Han with the Pulsing Cinema. We're in a more relaxed surrounding today because we're going back. We're just getting comfortable, and I hope I want to take you back a few years, maybe when you were a kid, or maybe when I was a kid. We're going to take a nostalgic look back at Commander USA. Commander USA's groovy movies, to be specific. Commander USA was a character who hosted a creature feature show that was shown on the afternoons, Saturday afternoons in the mid 80s to late 80s, and it had a profound influence on my life. You know, I think it had a profound influence on many people's lives. I don't think I would have been a horror film fan if not for Commander USA. You know, and many people who are fans of horror and sci-fi and fantasy, they had love for these creature feature shows, which were kind of a staple of the 60s and the 70s. You know, they're talking about Zachary and Vampira and Ghoulardi and all of these regional horror hosts. You know, and everybody kind of waxes nostalgic about these regional horror hosts. It really makes me angry, though. Not that many people really come out in support of Commander USA. Well, I mean, it's a little bit of a younger generation, because you think about, you know, if you were a fan of, like, in the Vampire, Zachary, you know, that kind of generation, you know, you must have been watching movies in, like, the 60s and the 70s. So you're more kind of in the 40s and the 50s, and now it's like 60s and 70s. You gotta be so you know. I mean, my generation is kind of going into, you know, the people who were born in around 1979 or so. We're kind of getting almost into our late 30s and early 40s. So maybe, hopefully, there might be some, you know, as people get older, this kind of renewal of nostalgia regarding the 80s and 80s horror host. And the thing about Commander USA is that he wasn't really a regional horror host, unlike some of these other guys that played, you know, in a small market, in an area, a television station, in a big market, in a big city. Commander USA wasn't like that. Commander USA was broadcast across the United States. You know, he was on cable, he was on satellite, and the USA Network, a young upstart, and in the mid-'80s, they started to really gain prominence, and they were, you know, it seemed like they had these packages of films that they would just show over and over and over. They were kind of like a hip TBS. That's how I would describe them, you know. And TBS had night flicks, but TBS would just show the Bond films over and over and over. They would show the Planet of the Apes films, the Lost in Space reruns in the afternoons and what have you. USA Network was a lot cooler. USA Network would have the reruns of, like, daytime game shows in throughout the middle, and the Cartoon Express, Calliope, right? I think. Or was Calliope Nickelodeon? Yeah, of course. But one thing that really stuck with me was Commander USA. Of course, Saturday Nightmare, Sci-Fi Friday, the other stuff that they had. But Commander USA was the guy. You know, he had a really stupid sense of humor. He had his hand lefty. He would make a little a face with his cigar in his hand. It would be lefty, and he was kind of like a retired superhero. You know, he was living like in this the basement of this supermarket, this little set, this crappy little set, and he would do these movies. You know, and he had a fan club, right? You know, and I never sent off for the fan club, but I would just. and they would show these movies like, pretty much any movie that that USA had the rights for as part of the syndicated package. They started off with like the black and white Mexican horror films, like the Brainiac, like the Gordon K. Murray stuff, and they had like blocks of those, and they would just seem to go on forever, and that was kind of boring. When it first came out, when it first promoed, when they had those, Mexican vampire, the El Santo films, the Samson films, and stuff like that, they would show that stuff. And that was okay. That was all right. But then they started getting into the modern films. They started showing The Children and Chud and Friday the 13th Part 3. That's a very well-remembered episode of Commander USA, the Friday the 13th show. And, oh man, it's just so many. It's the Psychotronic Man. That was a special one. That really, people really latched onto the Psychotronic Man, because that was kind of a rare movie, and it only came out on DVD maybe about 10 years ago or so. That was kind of obscure. Toxic Zombies. That was another kind of obscure film that, is where the hell would that go? But it showed up on Commander USA. And Mark Piro's Polish Vampire in Burbank, a Super 8 horror movie from the great Mark Piro, known for the Polish Vampire in Burbank, and Curse of the Queer Wolf, and the nudist camp, the colony of the nudist camp of the living dead or something. That was a big Super 8 movie in the early 90s, so yeah, kind of jokey, fun, no budget horror movies. But it somehow got on friggin' Commander USA. Oh man. It's Commander USA has just been pretty much forgotten. He got a tiny little mention in American Scary, that horror host documentary from a few years ago. He got a little tiny mention in that film, which just sucked, because Commander USA, it's Commander USA, I mean, it just makes me so sad, For many years, I felt really sad in the early 2000s, because Commander USA came on when I was so young. I didn't really tape any of the episodes, I wished, and I know many people probably watching this wish that they had been running a tape, that they had been taping in EP or whatever, that they had been taping like USA Network 24 hours a day for from 1986 to 1995, just have a block, just have a fucking room of tapes from the USA Network, and then that you just can go to and you can veg out and you can just, cut off the world and just, go back to the USA Network and just watch that stuff, and fuck the world and just go and watch that stuff. Of course that's counterproductive, and that's kind of disappearing into nostalgia, which is not the best thing to do, right? But as far as so little of that stuff from my childhood, and my family did have a VCR. I could have taped it, but I just didn't have the wherewithal to realize this stuff was going to stop being broadcast. I mean, I thought it was just never going to end. I thought I'd be able to every Saturday night, look in the TV guide and see what was showing on the local syndicated horror movie package, see what was showing on Up All Night, I just never thought it would end, and I was just a little kid, and then you grow up and you realize things change, very fast, and then you realize things change really, really fast. But, technology catches up with our need for nostalgia, and pretty much YouTube is now, exactly what I wanted. You can now pretty much go on YouTube and you can, for hours and hours and hours, you could watch USA Network stuff. I have a lot of USA Network programming that, what I was able to tape from the 90s, I've put up on my channel, on the Pulsing Cinema channel, and that's some of the most watched stuff, thousands and thousands of hits, from the up all night shows and stuff that I put on. I haven't put on a whole up all night show, but I've put on, the host segments for up all night. And I know other people put on the host segments for up all night, and actually people have far more complete and better looking stuff than I do, because my stuff is just what I could salvage from the tapes that I had. If I had to do over, I'd be running a tape every Saturday night, and spending all of my allowance or any kind of money I could buy from what we're selling, cans or whatever, panhandling on the street. I would buy VHS tapes and just get banks of tapes and archive this USA Network stuff, because it was just such a cool channel, USA Network. It was so offbeat, and I've to this day I just can never find a cable channel that has such a mixture of the offbeat stuff that I would used to see on the USA Network. Of course, there was Commander USA, but there was other stuff like Saturday Nightmares and in the afternoon, because Commander USA was early, and then in the afternoon, the evening, there was Saturday Nightmares and the Hitchhiker series, and Ray Bradbury Theater on Friday, and Sci-Friday, and Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and then there was that tabloid television series, Cover Story, I believe, that would do stuff like Smokey Robinson, and you can find a little bit of that on YouTube, but not a lot of stuff. Maybe people fixate on Up All Night and Groovie Movies, but there was a lot of other stuff on USA Network, and then there was that Rhonda Shear's Something Weird series, and then I'm sorry, Sandra Bernhardt, Something Weird series, Real Wild Cinema. I have almost all the Real Wild Cinemas. Yeah, that was, by that time I was archiving the stuff, but they've got them all on YouTube and you can check them out. And sounds like a tanker truck there. And Night Flight. Oh my God, you can't forget Night Flight. Oh man, there's just, and even like This Is Horror, when they cut it up and they had Robert Englund put in these bumpers and host segments, and they called it Shadow Theater, and that played. So, it was just an endless abyss of cool shows and tabloid stuff, and just the cultural detritus, the cultural debris of the late 80s and early 90s somehow would just kind of filter down into USA Network. And then, oh my God, I kept forgetting the USA Network TV movies, the USA Network movie of the week, the made-for-USA movies like High Desert Kill, and that movie with the car that with Joanna Cassidy when she's driving a bus. It was like a half-ass ripoff of The Car, and oh my God, the Gregory Harrison clone movie, and I'm Dangerous Tonight, the Toby Hooper, Anthony Perkins Machinamic film, and I just get revved up about this stuff, and I just talk about it for probably hours. I loved it, but Commander USA was like the true blue love, and for many years I only had the Commander USA, the only one that I had taped. Well, I had parts of Friday the 13th Part 3, which I found on a tape, and I didn't even know I'd taped it. And then I had In Search of Dracula, that documentary. And I still have it, but I haven't put it up on YouTube because I have an incomplete copy of it. Like halfway through watching In Search of Dracula, the little 5-year-old, 7-year-old me got bored with it and started changing the channels. And you just see me, changing the channels, and it's just, and then eventually I go back to In Search of Dracula. That was a Christopher Lee Dracula documentary type. But yeah, I have a complete copy of Bloodsong, which is another movie. For me, the top movies that were on Groovie Movies that I love and I like watching a lot are Toxic Zombies. I love that one. That was really an easy watch. And all these are on YouTube, by the way. Toxic Zombies. And Friday the 13th 3, okay. I don't really want Chud. Chud is just a movie I watch over and over and over and over. I don't think the Commander USA experience added much to it. It's just a great film. And the Psychotronic Man, yeah. I don't think the Psychotronic Man is on YouTube. It may be. It may. I think it is. I don't know. There's about 40 or 50 episodes of Commander USA that are on YouTube, and it's a big sampling of Commander USA. For years, I was so sad because it was like, through tape trading, I was able to get most of the Commander USA episodes. I got a lot of them, but I didn't get all of them. And I've been able to fill in a lot of my holes just through YouTube, and some of the stuff, low quality, but I mean, any kind of dub you're going to find at Commander USA these days is going to be subpar, multi-generational VHS. I mean, it's just the reality of it. Somewhere, somebody out there has mint copies of Commander USA, and I can't tell you what I would do to get them. I don't think the USA Network has Commander USA anymore. I mean, when a few years ago, when USA Network, with someone inside USA, or USA is owned by Universal, and they own the Sci-Fi and other things. But someone inside Universal was doing this presentation at some kind of Universal or USA trade event, and they were asking everybody for footage. YouTube posters for higher quality copies of footage. So the master tapes have been wiped, lost, thrown away years ago. All of that mid '80s USA stuff. Along with pretty much any other cable channel. All that stuff is gone, is lost. The only thing we have left are just the stuff that the home tapers have on VHS. So. Yeah, it's a damn shame, and it's sad, but it is what life is. But somewhere, somebody has to have HQ good quality of USA episodes. It has to be somebody who was taping them off satellite or something, which is dubbing on to the highest quality VHS, highest speed VHS beta that they had at that point. So, oh man. And what happened to Commander USA? Jim Hendricks, I mean, he's in American Scary, but I don't know what happened to him. Again, it's just, man. I just think about USA Network, and I'm sure I'll do many more episodes. Night Flight. Some people who are kind of older have nostalgia for Night Flight, because Night Flight was coming on in the mid to late 80s, and it was kind of that, that early time when not everybody had MTV. So there were a lot of MTV, Friday night videos, a lot of late night music video programs. And Night Flight was that type of thing, but it was very offbeat and weird, And also, it was the mid to late 80s, so, people like the Rolling Stones and, Jefferson Starship and whatever, they were doing new videos, for their new stuff that was coming out. So that was, again, a different era for television. And in the mid-90s, at the end of the night, many times, frequently on Up All Night, there would be music video breaks. So I caught on to that, but by the mid to late 90s, Up All Night still kept going on, but they were, again, a lot more homogenized. I never really liked Rhonda Shear, for as far as Up All Night. I was always a Gilbert guy. There was Gilbert people and Rhonda people, and I mean, I liked Rhonda, but it just got to a point where, okay, I mean, it's a TNA Phyllis Diller, it's a TNA comedian, which is good, and I love that. I still love, if it was Rhonda Shear or nothing, I would watch Rhonda Shear all day, but Gilbert was just the funniest, I still think he's one of the funniest goddamn comedians ever. So it's like, an okay comedian versus like this monumental, like, I wouldn't say idol. I mean, I think there'd be something wrong in your life if your idol is Gilbert Gottfried. I think you'd have to, like, going to therapy, But anyway, I love Gilbert and Rhonda, but it was becoming more Rhonda, in the late 90s, and I know she has a real heavy following. I know there's, have so many videos on YouTube, and I have a lot of Rhonda Shear videos on YouTube as well. But again, it was just changing, and eventually in the early 2000s when it got canceled. So I don't know where I'm going with this. Again, this nostalgia thing. You can get into a rut, you get into the hole. But I think Commander USA is really kind of encapsulates all the goofiness and the craziness of a creature feature host. And he was my creature feature host. He was what I grew up with, and I love him, and that's it. And I hope in the coming years more people get into Commander USA, or more people who were Commander USA fans when they were a kid kind of come out and say, "Yeah, I love it. This is my guy. He's cool." And hopefully maybe there might even be newer, higher quality copies of his episodes which surface, and then the episodes that aren't on YouTube, I hope they surface as well. Well, they may have already surfaced, and we're having problems watching them because a lot of the Commander USA's episodes, they have, because of YouTube content protection, a lot of them aren't available in the United States. Or some of them. I'm sure there's some people have tried to upload more episodes and they've been blocked or what have you. So it's kind of what we can get. But in any case, Commander USA, if you love Commander USA, if you hate Commander USA, if you have no feeling over Commander USA, go ahead and comment on this video and hit me up. And if you have your own videos about Commander USA, because I don't see many people like ranting and raving about Commander USA on YouTube. I may be not seeing them, but if anybody does, let me know, and we can bask in our Commander USA love. So, so there it is, Commander USA. Yes. Keep your nose in the wind and your tail to yourself, right? Oh my God. How can I call myself a Commander USA fan if I don't even get that right? I need to go watch some more Commander USA.